All right. Today we're going to be talking about the ninth house in astrology, giving you the full meaning explained. We first go through the significations, what the ninth house represents in your life, the area of life it is aligned with, because each house is a different area of life. Then we're going through the planets. The main planet that is aligned or produces the ninth house has the same significations, same aspects or meanings applied to it, as well as the best or most beneficial, auspicious planet to have in the ninth house, and the most difficult or challenging planet to have in the ninth house. Then we go through the ninth lord, just giving you a general overlook of what it's like when you take the ninth lord, which is the ruler of the sign holding the ninth cusp or the ninth sign in your chart. What happens when you take that ninth lord and you put it into different houses? We're not going to go through every single house. We're going to have a whole series later on about that, but just giving you a general overview of what it's like having the ninth lord in different areas or how it affects the chart. Finally, we have signs. All 12 signs, we're going to put them in the ninth house, conjunct the ninth bhava cusp, to give you an understanding of how each sign flavors, colors, thematically alters the ninth house, because that is what the signs do. They are the interior design. Each house is the external structure, the foundation, right? The setting. And then each sign is that thematic coloring, vibe, energy, the how, the why of the chart, the birth chart, okay? So when it comes to significations, the major significations or meanings or aspects of life that the ninth house represents is spirituality, morality, your ethics. It also signifies your parents, but your parents as a unit, as a pair, or your society, because this is a lot of times where we get our ethics, where we get our beliefs, where we get our spiritual or religious philosophies and understandings is from our parents and from the society we are raised in, okay? If you have an afflicted ninth house or a difficult ninth house, this could show problems with your parents or problems with society, not feeling like you're, accepted by them. Or this could be the case with the ninth lord that is afflicted, or with difficult, cruel grahas or planets, okay? And it also signifies your dharma, your path, but it can also signify your teachers, your gurus, counseling, your fortune, and your main purpose in life, and your ability to be devoted and committed to that path. Because also, I forgot to put down, the ninth house is aligned with the D9, the Navamsha, which is the most popular and used Varga chart, divisional chart, in all of Vedic astrology. The two main charts most Vedic astrologers utilize is the Rashi chart, the natal chart, the birth chart, all the same thing. It's the chart that you all know and love. And then you have a divisional chart, the ninth divisional chart, which kind of signifies the more spiritual underpinnings or the spiritual representation of the chart. It gives you a more granular look, a more refined look at the planetary energies in the way that you will maneuver life as a spiritual being. It's like the spiritual chart, the spirit or the soul of your main physical chart. Think of the main chart as like the physical path, the more external, the more manifest aspects of your life. The D9 is the more spiritual, purposeful, meaning-filled Varga chart. So you're taking the ninth house, like all Varga charts, like all divisional charts, you're taking a house and you're blowing it up and you're making a whole nother chart. It's a chart within a house, a chart within a chart, okay? Like I said, the Navamsha, it signifies marriage, but, back then when it was thought up of or presented to the world, marriage was the main path. It was either spiritual marriage, so you're either becoming a sannyasi, I believe what it is where you are devoted to the spiritual path, to transcendence, liberation. It would be somebody who might be dedicated to yoga, kriya yoga, or to achieving enlightenment as a sannyasi. Marriage is another aspect of another path that you can choose on the Navamsha path. It's going to be self-explanatory. I'm sure you know what marriage is. And then the final one is brahmacharya, which is just essentially a person who forgoes marriage to master their craft. A popular example would be somebody like, first, when I heard this term, I thought of Tom Brady came to mind, where someone is willing to sacrifice, someone's willing to sacrifice necessarily their relationships or maybe a family or a regular life to become exceptional or great or genius in a certain aspect or certain, I guess not volition, but I'm forgetting the word, but occupation is close enough, right? Or a certain skill set or anything. Okay. Now, the world is a lot more variable. There's a lot more variety going on in the modern world. There's a lot more different choices. So it can't be simplified necessarily down to those three different paths. But when you're thinking about the Navamsha, you're thinking about the ninth house as well, because they're both aligned, is purpose, your path in life, the path that you become devoted to, you become committed to. And a lot of people, that's marriage, but it can be other things as well, especially the way that society and the world is going, is people are becoming less and less married off, less family oriented, and more individualistic in one's path. And so a lot of people are kind of choosing their different ninth house, which is just your spiritual, purposeful, meaningful path you are devoted and committed to. It also can represent law and philosophy. And yes, like I said, spirituality, ethics, I believe those are the main significations, but it is a fortune house. It also represents our wisdom and our ability to understand situations after learning from somebody. So if you think about the fifth house is that kind of natural fortune, natural luck, natural creative intelligence and skill that you just gain from past life energies, and you just are naturally born into fifth house indications. Also first house too, it's just naturally a part of your makeup. The ninth house is also about learning and about reading and studying, and also higher education as well. Not just higher purpose, not just spirituality, but higher education. So it can be grad school or even becoming less so. I mean, back in the day, right, in the 50s and 70s, higher education would always mean undergraduate degree and up. It's becoming, the lines are being blurred, but we can still mostly signify, fifth house is education, but high school level education. Third house would be like primary school, elementary school, or even before elementary school. And the ninth house would be university or postgraduate education, or you maybe forgo college and you go to an ashram and learn the spiritual practices or become a yogi. That is also the ninth house. So it's just the higher education, the higher understandings that transcend the regular, mundane, trivial educations that we receive in the modern world. Okay. But the planets or the things in the ninth house is like you learn, you develop them, and you develop your wisdom through experiencing life and through your experiences. Ninth house can also represent a Hajj or a pilgrimage, which is a long distance journey, but for spiritual purposes, right? You can go to a long distance journey. You can go to Bali to see the palm trees, or go to the beach and hang out and maybe do some breath work, whatever. And that's about it. Or you can travel to Ecuador and do ayahuasca for spiritual purposes, or you can take a Hajj or pilgrimage to Mecca and connect with the Holy Land if that is your calling, right? Or go to India to study in an ashram. That is a pilgrimage. It's for a long distance journey that is for spiritual purpose, a higher purpose, a transcendent purpose that is based in your beliefs, your morals, your philosophies, your ethics. We all have some. We all have our own ethos, okay? That is the ninth house. That is the ninth bhava and the ninth bhava cusp. So we go to planets. Oh, also almost forgot to the body parts that is represented. It's aligned with Sagittarius, which also represents the same body part. The ninth sign and the ninth bhava is the buttocks. And the buttocks, the reason why it represents the buttocks is because the butt, the ass, the cake is what makes humans the preeminent and greatest long distance land animal on the planet. Believe it or not, we can run and travel over 100 miles in, I believe, 24 hours or something crazy like that. Ultra marathon runners can outrun horses, obviously outrun a cheetah or a lion when it comes to long distance. Short distance, we get cooked consistently. But when it comes to endurance, we are apex. Maybe not your average American because we're used to sitting down, lying around, and eating Dominoes, but humans at peak, you take a Kenyan, he's not messing around. He's gonna smoke any land animal on the planet. Or you take someone like David Goggins or these like 45-year-old ultra marathon runners and put them up against any animal, and they'll run them into the dirt. They'll kill them because those animals. I mean, if those animals had a competitive spirit, but you get the point. Any animal would die trying to keep up with a human being once you get to those ultra marathon levels of like 80 to 150 to even 200 miles within 48 hours or something crazy like that. So ninth house, the buttocks, Sagittarius, is endurance, is being able to move towards a goal for long periods of time and consistently doing it, right? Humans have that ability to project our consciousness into the future, to project ourselves and have goals and desires that are beyond our inherent nature. And that is the way to think about the ninth house, is goals that are greater than just sex, food, shelter, the baseline hierarchy, Maslow's of needs, or Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the baseline. No, that's the higher layers, that's the ninth bhava. That is the spiritual dimension, the meaningful, purposeful dimension, right? It's the part of our lives, the part of the chart that pushes us through the suffering, that makes all of the pain and suffering worth it. And so having a good ninth house will really make a lot of the difficult aspects of life more worth it. And also Jupiter, because we go to planets, right? The natural karaka of the ninth house, the planet that aligns most significantly with the ninth bhava, is Jupiter. Because Jupiter is our purpose, our beliefs, our philosophies, our spirituality, our morals and our ethics, our fortune and our wisdom and our understanding. It is very much aligned most, if anything, with the ninth house. Because Jupiter is aligned with the second and the fifth and the 11th. It's aligned with a lot of different houses, naturally speaking. But the ninth is where it is most aligned with. Ninth house is Jupiter. Jupiter is ninth house. It is that greater transcendent spirituality that makes the difficulties in the material world worth it, if you have a good connection with your Jupiter, which is up to you because you have free will, even if it's debilitated or afflicted in your chart. Okay? The best planet other than Jupiter to have in the ninth bhava, all things being equal, not accounting dignity or lagitati vasha, starvations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is Venus. Because when you put Venus in the ninth, Venus is actually the most important planet for the Navamsha. It rules that chart because each planet rules a different divisional chart. For the Rashi chart, if you were thinking in your mind, I wonder what the birth chart, it's the sun. The sun is the natural planet that signifies the Rashi chart. D2 will be moon, D3, Drekana is Mars, D7, right, is going to be Jupiter as well. But when it comes to ninth house Navamsha, Venus, why Venus? Is because Venus is the planet of choice, what we choose to commit ourselves to or to devote ourselves to. Okay? And so Venus does very well there because somebody will be able to make the wise choice, use their higher intelligence, their wisdom, their understanding based off of their past lives, based off of the current incarnation, to make good decisions that lead to practical fulfillment and satisfaction, because that's what Venus provides. It's all about choices and commitments to the things in our life that lead to material, external fulfillment, exchanging with the outside. Jupiter could sometimes not care less about your material well-being because everything's about that spiritual progression, that spiritual growth. You couldn't tell I have a strong Jupiter. But people with good Venuses are able to have a very fulfilling, satisfying, materially enjoyable, pleasurable life. Jupiter is more about a meaningful, purposeful life, and you can have the most terrifying and suffering-filled existence, but it can all be worth it in the end. And you can also have the most materially satisfying, uncomfortable, and pleasurable experience and find no meaning in it and want to take your life. I mean, you can see this with people like Robin Williams or famous people who go through these depressions or mental breaks because despite having everything, they feel empty. And Jupiter gives that internal fulfillment. Venus, that external fulfillment. So Jupiter is still the best to have in the ninth bhava, but Venus does give you a nice, wonderful life that can support your spiritual development, because also, for most people, having a life that is full of suffering and trauma and pain is a lot more difficult to live a spiritual life and to enjoy your spiritual practices and connect with God when the foundation is so rotten to the core. And so Venus allows you to have that beautiful foundation, okay? And the most difficult planet, the most painful, I mean, Saturn would obviously be not the best. Saturn causes a lot of trouble in any house other than, say, the 6th or the 7th. Other than that, it's not the most enjoyable planet to have in a sign, or sorry, in a house. Or the 10th, actually. So 6th, 7th, and 10th, Saturn's fine. But other than those, it's painful. Rahu, or North Node, because the Rahu North Node house, wherever Rahu, the North Node, is placed in your chart, that is where you are developing yourself. That is where you have the least past life experience, spiritual development. So you are you're learning without training wheels, but you need training wheels. It's like the area of the chart where you're learning how to ride a bike, and you're going to fall on your ass, and you're going to scrape yourself, and you're going to get pissed off. And that is just the way of the game when it comes to North Node. We all have a North Node. We all have an area of the chart that needs development. Obviously, the better dignity the planets with the North Node, Rahu, or the Lord of Rahu, the North Node, the better you'll be able to develop that area of the chart. But no, neither here nor there, it still takes a while for us all to develop ourselves in that area, unless you are an enlightened guru, but you're not watching this video if you are that. So yeah, what happens there is that when it comes to Rahu, the North Node, in the 9th Bhava cusp, in the 9th house, in the 9th sign, it can be painful because you might feel like an outcast, or you might have difficulty developing your higher knowledge, meaning gaining education after secondary school, post-secondary education, postgraduate school education, connecting with a guru, connecting with a teacher. Usually, good 9th house, a good Jupiter, a good 9th Lord will signify somebody who finds gurus, teachers, guides in their life, counselors that can lead them in the proper direction. And how amazing is that when you are struggling and you have somebody come into your life and gives you the proper guidance you need? And also people with those strong are actually good guides, good teachers, good counselors. But when you have Rahu there, you're developing that area. So those people will have trouble counseling others, teaching others, guiding others, or being taught, being guided, being counseled. Not necessarily because they're a bad person or whatever. It's just that they're being called to develop that area of their life themselves. And so they're going to have to learn by themselves. They're going to have to experiment. 3rd house, experiment, trial and error, fall on their ass. That's where they feel comfortable, is experimenting and having that direct experience. But eventually they're going to have faith and trust and belief in somebody else other than themselves or the people around them. So you start off learning and trying, but then eventually being open to gurus and teachers and counselors and societal norms and ethics and philosophies that will probably let you down, because that's what the North Node Rahu does. Wherever it is, it's going to let you down. It's going to disappoint you. And you're going to want to run back to the Ketu South Node house, which in this case is the 3rd house. But stay committed, because you are developing your balanced energy. North Node, South Node axis, it's all about balancing the energy. So it's painful, it's difficult, it's frustrating. You're gonna have to learn a lot of things by yourself, and that can be difficult, especially, a fortunate house as well. But you can do it, and anyone else can do it, because we all are human beings with the capacity for greatness, for enlightenment, for spiritual growth and development. 9th Lord, we always start with Aries. If you've been following this series, we get Mars up in this bish. And we take the 9th Lord and we put it, say, in the 5th house. Also, the 9th house can also signify grandchildren, because it is the 5th, your children, the children of your children, the 5th from the 5th, bavat bavam, grandchildren. You can read the chart from there. I'm not the biggest fan of reading people from the chart, because it takes a lot of nuance. You have to check all the Varga charts. It's very, and then also not even mentioning, Jaimini Karakas, like the Dara Karaka and the, Mucha Karaka, Bhatri Karaka, all those things. But, and then the Atma Karaka. So I'm not the biggest fan of reading people from the chart. But if you would like to, and like to learn about perhaps your grandchildren, that is a good place to start, is the 9th house. Now, say you took the 9th Lord and you put it in the 5th house. I mean, that's pretty fortunate. You got a fortunate Lord and a fortunate house. The Lord of any house is like the director of that house. The house itself is the setting, the place, the area of life. The sign is the theme, the vibe, the energy, the genre that colors and flavors the house. And then the Lord is like the director, and they bring their significations, their energy to each house wherever they're going. And so the director, the Lord of a certain house, will serve, support, energize, and fulfill the desires of that house through the significations of their own house that they are lording over. So when you have the 9th Lord in the 5th, that means your higher wisdom, your understanding, your spirituality, your higher education and understanding, even just fortune in general. But 9th house is wisdom, is fortune that comes from our wisdom, comes from the understanding that we acquire over life or get from our gurus and teachers. Where the 5th house is that natural fortune that just comes from, that radiates out of us in like a childlike joy. But you have Your wisdom, your understanding, your higher spiritual morals and ethics and philosophies, supporting your creativity, supporting your children, supporting your education, somebody that can do very well becoming educated or become a good counselor or be counseled by others and take that advice, integrate it. People take for granted, people want to be a good counselor, but how about being somebody who can be counseled well? How much easier is life if you can take guidance and take counsel from the right people? It makes your life so much easier, not having to learn everything the hard way. I have my ninth lord with Rahu, North Node, and there's a time in my life, and sometimes still, where I have to learn things the hard way and I don't take advice from people wiser and smarter than me, which there are a lot on this planet. There's so many people that are smarter and wiser than me and have greater understandings about many things that I wish I had greater understanding of. So I learn to be humble, and I have humility. And so someone with the ninth and the fifth has that humbleness to be able to learn from people greater than them. As long as the ninth lord is healthy and the ninth house is healthy. Depends, right? It's mediated between different areas depending on the health of a chart in the planets. So you have the ninth lord in the first, like I do. Somebody who may have natural ability to counsel, to teach, to guide other people, or are able to align themselves with gurus and teachers that very much support their path in life, right? So the ninth house is supporting the life path, the body, the persona, the presentation, the individual self, the identity, the self-esteem. These are all areas of the first house being supported by one's wisdom, gurus, teachers, purpose, philosophies, ethics, etc. And so since I have the North Node with my ninth lord, it took me some time. It took me until my 20s to start developing my ethics, my philosophy, because I grew up an atheist. And it wasn't until my dark night of the soul that I was able to realize that there has to be something greater than just this three-dimensional physical slop called Earth, full of chaos and death and destruction and beauty and love as well, and nature and connection, but a lot of suffering as well, intense suffering. And so in my mind, I said there has to be something greater than this, but I was disconnected from it. But that's the beauty of the ninth house. It can have you aligning yourself with something that really gives purpose, meaning to all of this suffering, all of the difficulties of life. Say you have it in the sixth. So now your wisdom, your understanding, your teachers, your gurus, your counseling, and the higher knowledge you've acquired is supporting your work and your habits and your daily routine. It's also allowing you to be of service. So somebody who could perhaps be a therapist very much, or a trauma therapist, or somebody who can support other people through inspiring them, being a coach of that nature. Things like that, okay? Just ninth lord, you're bringing, wherever it goes, you're bringing your wisdom, you're bringing your knowledge, your spirituality, your ethics, your philosophies there, your cultural mores, things like that. Now we go to the signs. We have Aries in the ninth house, or holding the ninth cusp. What does that look like? So there is a Aries approach to philosophy, ethics, and spirituality, which looks like somebody who can be bold, be driven, direct, can also take a logical approach. Aries is a very logical sign ruled by the logical Mars. So they could be somebody who would enjoy the logical aspects of philosophy or spirituality or religion, things that make logical, coherent sense, things that guide them towards fulfilling their visions or overcoming the obstacles and the challenges in their life. And also the ninth house is very importantly our purpose, and the sign that is conjunct or holding the ninth cusp or the ninth sign can show us like what is flavoring how we find higher purpose, or how or why we're pursuing something that is higher than ourselves. And so the person with Aries on the ninth cusp, which would be a Leo Lagna, a Leo ascendant person, would find purpose and meaning through following their vision, being independent and starting something, initiating something new, perhaps bringing something new into the world, or going first towards something. Going down the unbeaten path is where they will find their higher purpose, is when they venture out on their own individualistic journey. We go to Taurus. I have a couple friends, former client, Taurus in the ninth house or the ninth sign, or conjunct the ninth, or holding the ninth cusp. And what that looks like is somebody who will probably take more of a materialistic, practical approach, a more grounded approach to spirituality, ethics, and philosophy. So the purpose is for material comfort, really making a nice foundation. Like I said, especially if you had Venus in there. Two people I know, when it comes to family and friends, they have Venus inside Taurus, and so they're very good at making responsible and materially satisfying decisions. They're good with money. They're intelligent. They're practical about it. They're not spending money willy nilly, at least not to make sure they don't get into trouble. But they do enjoy the finer things. They do enjoy the comforts of life that it has to offer, the pleasures that life has to offer. But that is kind of the approach. Is when it comes to philosophies, when it comes to spirituality, the flavor is practical support, grounded, and steady, consistent. Where you find your purpose, where you find the meaning, the higher meaning, the most important meanings in your life, the devotion, when it comes to Taurus in the ninth, is material satisfaction and material security, and being able to support others as well. So it doesn't have to be so individualistic, right? You'll find that meaning through being able to materially support people other than yourselves. That's the point. You're making these good decisions, you're being practical, you're grounded, you're making the right choices to get to the right things that will make you materially satisfied and secure, so then you can support others for their material needs and desires and fulfillments and requirements. So it's a beautiful thing. It can be harder, though, to have noticed these people do tend to less believe in something higher. But look, if you're helping out people on earth, that's what matters most. You don't always have to believe in God in the conventional sense. Gemini will probably take more of an eclectic, for variable, trial, experimental, intellectual approach to philosophy, ethics, and spirituality, trying different things, contemplating different things, communicating with others about these different philosophies and ethics and spirituality or spiritual paths. And when it comes to finding that higher purpose, finding that higher meaning, usually they will find that through the fun aspects of life, or the interesting things in life, or the hobbies, or, like I said, communicating with other people. They find the interesting, fascinating, stimulating parts of life. That is the point, is to come to earth, play the game of life, and to do the best you can and to learn things along the way. That is, and also developing one's skills, one's capacity to play this game of life. Mercury is all about playing the game of life. I perceive life as a game to a certain extent, very much to a certain extent, and Mercury is in my first house with my North Node. And so that's kind of how I can see the game of like, okay, we're here and we have certain XP points and we're all maneuvering it, and sure, it's like a simulation or whatever you want to call it. And we're just evolving, and we're spiritual beings in this earth school playing this game, doing our best, every single one of us, whether we're conscious of it or not. Cancer will take a more emotional, intuitive, and open, caring approach to spirituality, philosophy, ethics, empathic in the way that they approach their philosophy. So like, Gemini might say, this is the most interesting philosophy or the most interesting spiritual path, the most dynamic or mentally stimulating. So that's why I'm entertaining it or following it. Whereas Cancer, and also, Aries might be, this is the first spiritual path that came up, or, has the most precedence. It's the most foundational. Like Hindu, they would be like Hindu astrology. It's been around for the longest. Or it's different than everybody else. They make their own religion, right? Or they pick the unbeaten path. They want to go completely off and veer off into something that's different than everybody else, or start their own philosophy or ethics, things like that, or something that's logically sound. But Cancer, it's empathic, it's emotional. It's what they can emotionally connect to, what is stirring up their emotional body, their subtle body, which is ruled by the moon, their soul, okay? And where do they find meaning? Where do they find their higher purpose and their fortune? Which is also the ninth house. They find it through family, emotional connection, and nurturing others, caring for others, being of service, but in a supportive role. And not saying they always have to be second fiddle. They can be their own center of the galaxy, but it's caring for other people. And you can still be the queen caring for other people, but it matters that you are emotionally connecting with others and caring for them in some way or fashion, but caring for people usually in a more emotional way, where Taurus is finding purpose, caring for others in a more material, grounded, sensual way. Okay? We have Leo on the ascendant, or no, we don't. We have a Leo in the 9th house, holding the 9th cusp or the 9th sign. The approach to philosophy ethics is also logical, because the sun is also logical. It is consistent, definitely an honorable code. So their approach should be about honor, what is honorable, what is consistent, what is congruent. So having a code of conduct, having an honorable code that one must abide by is really, really important. So for Leo 2, the most important thing would be, I have a code and I'm following it. That is somebody who is moral and ethical, is that they follow their own code. They are not hypocritical. They are not inconsistent. They are not fickle. They don't say one thing and do another. Leo likes consistent. Leo likes saying something and standing by it. That's the sun. Steadfast, consistent, strong. Strength is also can be prioritized, and whatever can lead to strength and power, and not necessarily in a negative way. It doesn't have to be, there's a stigma around the term power and, status and hierarchies, but just something that is rooted in being a strong human being who can lead and guide others, because you can guide through strength. With great power comes great responsibility. The only reason why there's a stigma around power and hierarchies and all those things is because the power has not been used with great responsibility. It's been used to coerce and oppress other people. So we got Leo, and where's the higher purpose? Where is the meaning? Well, if you're taking an honorable approach to philosophy, your ethics, your spirituality, your spiritual path, if you have your code of honor, you're being consistent, you're standing by your word, by your code of conduct, well, then your higher purpose, what's the point of that? Is because you're leading others or you're managing your own life. So managing one's life, taking care of the people in their life, but as like a king type energy. That gives higher meaning, that gives higher purpose to the Leo in the 9th house, which would be, a Sagittarius, rising individual. So being the king of their kingdom, managing their life, managing the people in their lives that they are responsible for as the king. Virgo will take obviously a more intellectual, practical, refined, detailed-oriented, and conscientious approach to spirituality, ethics, and philosophy. Probably somebody who might like to analytically analyze different philosophies, different cultural mores, things like that, take it apart, bring it back together, just refine it, maybe see if there's certain flaws or inconsistencies, really doing the grunt work to get to the details and see if there's any flaws to be observed, taking a, like I said, refined, detail-oriented approach to philosophy, ethics, and spirituality. And what is the point? Is for development, purification, purifying one's morality, purifying the self, purifying one's cultures, elevating, developing, refining. These are Virgo, let's say, these are Virgo, not morals, but desires. It's a little reductionist, but I think you get the point. It's the goals, sure. Goals of Virgo, refinement, development, and purification. And that will give greater meaning. That is a beautiful way to utilize your Virgo, which would probably be a Capricorn ascendant, I believe. Yes, Capricorn ascendant. Libra, which would make it a Aquarius ascendant. Libra on the 9th house or holding the 9th cusp. There is a balanced, graceful, also, believe it or not, practical approach to philosophy, ethics, and spirituality, but also a social approach, because Venus is a practical sign. It's all about, again, material satisfaction, exchanging with the external world. Libra is all about trade. So trading ideas, socializing, seeing what other people are thinking, seeing how your philosophies, ethics, morals, spiritual path affects other people or what other people think. There is more of an exchange. Leo, Aries, Sagittarius, more individualistic, less likely to ask for other people's opinions, But Gemini, Libra, the air signs, they want to exchange, they want to communicate about it. They want to gain insights from other people. And then Aquarius is more looking at the broader societal general sphere, right? But we'll get to Aquarius later on, but Aquarius thinks on the societal level. Libra's thinking on the interpersonal level. And Gemini is thinking on the intellectual level. So like ideas, like reading things from great people. But Libra usually wants to socialize, actually directly interact, whether it's through internet forums or comments, to learn and develop their spirituality, their ethics, their morals, their purpose. And what is their purpose? Or where will they find their higher purpose, their wisdom, their fortune, which is what the ninth house signifies. They will find it through social interactions, through harmonizing with other people, and through win-win scenarios, being able to find compromises where everybody wins. That gives them higher purpose, that gives them satisfaction, that brings meaning to their life, and allows them to enjoy life despite the sufferings. Scorpio, which would be a Pisces ascendant, is, the cusp move, but if it's the ninth sign and you live relatively close to the equator, then it'll be a Pisces ascendant. But Scorpio, holding ninth cusp or in the ninth house or the ninth sign, will have, you guessed it, a transformative and intense approach to spirituality, ethics, philosophy. There will be a desire to face one's darkness, face the traumas, face the hardships and the difficulties of life, and to come out of the fire a better version of oneself, having transformed into the better version of yourself. And that's the purpose. That's the point. The point of life is to elevate ourselves and to face the darkness and face our shadows and face the things that are holding us back from developing into higher beings that can transcend space and time and not have to be subject to this gross three-dimensional. When I mean gross, I mean tangible. I mean more fundamental, not necessarily ill gross, but more solid gross. But gross aspect of existence, okay? And also transformation, the death rebirth cycle, but also transmutation. That's also another purpose of somebody with Scorpio holding the ninth cusp. And what is the difference, right? So there's transformation, which is taking something and turning it into another thing, like a Pokemon evolving, or ice transforming into water, water transforming into mist. These are the transformation, same element. But transmutation is the redirection, the refunneling of energy, because energy is never created or it's never created or destroyed. It is only transformed. It was all given to us through source, through the Big Bang, whatever you believe. It was here before, all the atoms, and it's just reorganizing itself into different aspects of the simulation that we live in. So transmutation is simply taking certain energies and moving them towards something else. So you can transmute, say, your sexual cravings and channel that towards creativity. Channel that through to work. That's just a very common example of sexual transmutation. And so Scorpio, the purpose, transformation, transmutation, death, rebirth, and elevation. And also just being a badass, because Scorpio definitely cares about that. Cares about that type of shit. Sagittarius. So you have the natural ninth house holding, or you have the natural ninth sign holding the ninth cusp. So there is that alignment. So ones will take an approach to philosophy, spirituality, ethics, the way that you should if you want to get the most out of it, which is openness, optimism, faith, and belief. Having the ability to believe in something greater than yourself, having the adventurous spirit to try different things and to travel to different lands and to see different aspects of reality, and eventually connecting with one's own inner guru, but able to take guidance and counseling from others. Okay? But eventually rooting yourself in your own belief system, your own philosophy, your own code of ethics that has meaning and purpose and is helpful to others so you can teach and guide. And the purpose, the point is elevation, spiritual evolution, evolving one's spirit internally, and also following one's inspirations and fulfilling one's goals. Because we all have certain spiritual, tangible, intellectual, romantic goals in this life. And Sagittarius is very goal-oriented. It's very focused on moving towards something of purpose, of meaning that will give it meaning. And so the whole point is achieving one's goals, fulfilling one's purpose, guiding, counseling, teaching others by learning from other people. That beautiful channel of, teacher, guru to student, disciple to then teach, then becomes a teacher, guru to then student. It's that chain of command that, and we're all. And if you even think about it another way, we're all standing on the shoulders of giants. Each one smaller than the next, but achieving greater heights because we're working on from what happened before. Now we have Capricorn. Capricorn, more traditional, practical, industrious approach, right? Virgo's more conscientious, which is more refined, detailed. Not responsible is a little bit, but kind of like, conscientious is like, somebody who has really good handwriting, right? But industrious is somebody who does a lot of handwriting. So Virgo's like, let me do quality over quantity, where Capricorn's more like, I don't care about quality or quantity as long as the job gets done, right? I don't care about either or, A Taurus would probably be more about quantity, like quality too. That's a little unfair. Maybe Gemini likes quantity because then it's a lot. You're trying a bunch of different things. But Capricorn just wants to, as long as the goal is fulfilled, as long as the problem is solved, as long as I've achieved what I've set out to achieve and succeeded in what I've desired to achieve, that is the purpose. And that's how they approach the spirituality. Can be more prone to being more materialistic, taking a more materialistic perspective to philosophy, spirituality, religion, those things. That's fine. Maybe probably more of a utilitarian approach. What produces the least amount of suffering? What provides the most amount of peace and acceptance and love or satisfaction would be somebody. The earth signs usually that they're going to be more utilitarian in their approach, their philosophies, their morals, their ethics, their spiritual approaches. Okay, and what's the point is to live a successful life, to fix problems, to make life more safe and to become stronger, to become a more successful, stronger, powerful, authoritative human being who has fixed problems, learned the lessons, and is able to guide others as well. Because ninth house is counseling, it's guidance, it's guru, it's teacher, and it's also you becoming guru, teacher, counselor as well. And so this is looking at the sign, looking at the ninth lord, looking at the planets in the ninth house, will color and show you how you can become a counselor, teacher, guru, and what kind of counselors, gurus, teachers will be able to resonate with you. Because we all resonate with a different leadership, a different counsel, okay? Just depends. Some people get counseled by streamers, some by gurus, some by celebrities, some by professors. Everyone has their own authority that they look to for meaning, purpose, and guidance. Aquarius is going to be someone who takes a more innovative, unique, progressive approach to philosophy, ethics, spirituality, probably also more intellectual. So thinking about ideas or resonating with people who can articulate their ideas or their intellectual thoughts and pontifications. Definitely somebody who likes the philosophical, back and forth or the refinement when it comes to being able to see different things from different perspectives or seeing how it's affecting society over time. Because again, it's very, very intellectual. It's the air sign. So looking at things in a more macro level. And what's the point? Purpose? To find one's individuality, to become psychologically more aware and resilient. And also the purpose is to better society as a whole, right? Thinking about these things, working on the self, but also seeing how it can help humanity and elevate people as human beings, as not necessarily spiritual beings, but just as human beings, because there is this understanding inherently that every human being has their own inherent self-worth that is rooted in the Aquarius philosophy. Finally, Pisces, you have Jupiter sign, Jupiter house, and someone will take a very open, intuitive, but maybe even boundary dissolving, boundaryless approach to beliefs, philosophy, spirituality. So they're more open to mystical experiences. They're more open to, ego disillusionment and surrender. And what's the point is liberation. Liberation from the mundane, liberation from this material world to elevate. It is about becoming, very much when you have Sagittarius or Pisces, but especially mostly Pisces, about elevating oneself as a spiritual being. Truly. And allowing people to connect and connecting with other people and connecting with something greater though. Being able to connect with God or spirit or the transcendent in some way, shape, or form. And that may be philosophy, that may be a belief or a faith. Not always, but Pisces usually is calling one to look past the material, look past the physical, and to see what is above or inside. That was the ninth house. Thank you for watching. Thank you for getting this far. If you have any questions, please ask me down below in the comments, or you have any comments you'd like to provide, whether it was critiques or you resonate with it. I'm open to listen as long as you're not too vicious. So far, so good though. So I have nothing to complain about, and I appreciate you guys for watching. In the next video, we're going to be doing the 10th house. As we go along this series, we started at 1, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 12, all 12 houses, full meaning explained just like this. Cheers.